All right. Welcome back to the channel. What a good day. Jermell Charlo and Jeison Rosario have agreed to terms, according to reports, for a unification fight at 154 pounds. And I'm telling you, this is one of the best fights that can be made in boxing. I am tremendously excited about it. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, warning today, I'm in a little bit of a mood. So, you're going to hear me talk about American boxing a lot. And this fight that we see is to be made between the Dominican fighter Jeison Rosario, who is the WBA champion, and the IBF champion, against the WBC champion Jermell Charlo, should, but probably will not, put another American fighter in one of the top positions in the pound for pound list that the mainstream media put out. Now, I said that it should, but more than likely it will not. But let's talk about the fight, why it's so important, why and how I think that how it will play out. But before I do that, special thank you to everybody that's subscribed. If you are not subscribed, please do me a favor and subscribe, and then hit the bell icon to make sure that you are notified of all the content that we drop. And you can do that by hitting the icon bell and selecting all. And also thank you to everybody that supports the channel in a myriad of other ways. The super chat, the live streams, the channel memberships, and the Patreon. But let's get into this. Jermell Charlo, in my opinion, is one of the best 6 or 7 fighters in all of boxing. He is a long reigning WBC champion. He has one loss that came in a controversial decision against Tony Harrison, and then he came back against the same guy that he lost to and knocks him out to get his title back. Jermell Charlo is somebody, if you look at the 4 areas of scoring criteria in boxing, right, which is defense, effective aggressiveness, clean and effective punching, and ring generalship. He demonstrates all of those things. He has the ability in all of those areas, excellent ability in all of those 4 areas. I'm not going to say that he's the best in any one particular area, but extremely well-rounded and extremely high level in each of those areas. And what he has done as a long-time reigning champion and beating guys like Erickson Lubin, beating Tony Harrison, beating Austin Trout. All of those guys are excellent fighters. And Jermell Charlo, you can see what this dude does in his ring is something special. Unfortunately for him, he has not to date been able to get a shot to fight for more than one belt. And actually, early in his career, he had Demetrius Andre duck out of a fight with him to fight for a belt at 100, his first title shot at 154 pounds, which should tell you exactly how good a fighter Jermell Charlo is, where Demetrius Andre passes up on a fight with him, because Demetrius Andre is a heck of a fighter, right? So, but when he had the opportunity the first time to get to fight Jarrett Hurd, when Jarrett Hurd got the IBF and the WBA belt, Jarrett Hurd decided to go Hollywood. That's the only way that I can describe it, that he decided he was going to go Hollywood, and went to go fight 2 other fighters. In the midst of it, winds up getting beat by somebody he probably thought was a softer touch than he really was, which was J-Rock. He loses the belt. Then J-Rock fights Rosario. He loses the belts to Rosario. Then when Rosario was getting interviewed after the fight, and people are asking him about Jermell Charlo, he says, I don't know if I'm ready yet. So it sounded as if he wasn't trying to get that fight. But I do believe, as a result of this COVID thing going on and the fact that, hey, man, more than likely Jeison Rosario didn't make that much money fighting J-Rock because he was definitely the underdog in that fight and it was not a big money fight. So I don't know if Jeison Rosario earned enough money to coast him for 2 years without fighting. So now they've agreed to terms for a championship, for a unification fight with Jermell Charlo. And I could not be happier, man. This is going to be one of the best fights in boxing. You have an excellent top pound for pound fighter. Again, like I said, in Jermell Charlo. You got Jeison Rosario, who beat a very good Julian J. Rock Williams, man, with his exceptional power. Loving the fight, looking forward to the fight. Now, like I said, this is going to be one of these American boxing fan type of things, because I have no doubt, while I know that I am very familiar with all of the potential matchups that can take place in boxing. Well, I won't say all of them. There are some guys down there at maybe 105, 108, 112, maybe to 115, that I might not be familiar with, maybe some up and coming fighters that are coming up, right? But of all of the fights that can take place in boxing, man, Jermell Charlo versus Jeison Rosario is not only very realistic. Now that actually they've come to terms. It's also one of, how many other fights do you have where people are unifying, three of the four belts, right? None, except for Anthony Joshua did it last April when he got the 3 belts back that he had from Andy Ruiz. But here's my thing about the American boxing. Do you think any of these ESPN, Ring Magazine, or any of these other smaller websites are going to talk about this fight as if it is a great fight, as if it is a chance for an American fighter? Because these guys are supposed to be, these are Americans writing this, right? But you think that there's going to be any excitement that you have an American fighter fighting for 3 of the major championship belts? No, no. And matter of fact, man, I had a conversation on Twitter. I'm not going to say the guy's name because, I'm starting to say, look, man, sometimes it's just obvious when people don't know, when somebody says something that is so stupid, you just have to wonder, like, man, does this guy really know boxing at all? Like, does he really like boxing, right? So I had a conversation with a guy while I was looking on a feed, and there was something, Dougie Fisher was talking about how many American fighters he had in his top 20, right? I didn't pay attention to how many Dougie Fisher had in his top 20 because I made a promise to myself that I cannot blast Dougie Fisher anymore. I cannot do it. He and I just do not see eye to eye on boxing and the skill sets of American boxers. The dude has been wrong since Diego Corrales versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. Like, you see Diego Corrales, you see Floyd Mayweather Jr. On what planet did you think that Diego Corrales was going to beat this guy? You know what I mean? Like, you guys must lose a ton of money gambling on boxing. So anyway, when I saw Dougie Fisher's thing, I was like, I'm not going to say anything about that. A decade is enough, okay? A decade of having beef with him is enough. And plus, I heard him on a channel. I saw pictures of his kids, saw pictures of his wife. Hey man, I'm gonna support that family, man. That's the best I can say. Now I'm telling you, this is frustrating. But in the midst of it, somebody else responded and said they only had 2 Americans in their top 20 fighters. 2. There are 15 American world champions. 15. More than any other country by a grip. The second closest country is Mexico, and they might have 10. And I don't think they have 10. But for some crazy way, American can have the largest majority of the largest number of individual champions. But you can't find a way to put but 2 of them in your top 20, which means there's a chance that you only have 1 of them in your top 10. You cannot find 20 fighters on the face of this earth better than Gervonta Davis, better than Terrence Crawford, better than Errol Spence Jr., better than Jermell Charlo, better than Gary Russell Jr., better than Shakur Stevenson, better than Devin Haney, better than David Benavidez, better than Mikey Garcia, better than Jose Ramirez. You can't find them. I don't think you can find 20 fighters in the world better than Jaron Ennis. But somehow they can't put these dudes on lists. Man, I'm going to enjoy Jermell Charlo versus Jeison Rosario because I know the level of fighter that these guys are. I just maybe if Al Heyman starts talking and giving interviews to and giving interviews to and in secret behind the scenes information to these boxing media outlets, then maybe somebody might see that Jermell might actually take the time to watch these guys fight. Because the only way that there's only one or two ways that people would believe that a guy like Daniel Roman, by the way, the guy said that he had before Daniel Roman lost his last fight, that he had Daniel Roman in his top 20 fighters. Daniel Roman, but did not have Jermell Charlo, did not have Gervonta Davis, does not have Devin Haney, does not have Shakur Stevenson, does not have Jermell Charlo, David Benavidez, Caleb Plant. None of them. Dog, you can't make this stuff up, dude. We riding for this American boxing, man. Anyway, y'all want to tear down the LDBC? Okay, black fighters, keep doing it. And that's how those guys keep trying to treat y'all. Crazy. Anyway, I'm done. Like I said, this is just going to be a day of a lot of this. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.